Okay, so 3, 4, we talked about slope, right? We talked about positive slope, negative slope, undefined if it's vertical, 0 if it's horizontal. And then we talked about the relationship between parallel and perpendicular lines. What's the relationship between parallel lines and their slope, Anna?
Exactly
the same. And how about perpendicular?
Opposite.
Good, opposite reciprocal. So for 1, we're just finding the slope, and so for this, you need the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I can use either one, right? So this could be x1, y1, or it could have been x2, y2, as long as the numbers within the parentheses are the same. So this is 2 minus a negative 3 over 5 minus 4, and I get 2 plus 3, or 5 over 1. So the slope here is 5. Number 2 says line K passes through the points negative 1, 2, and 3, 5. Line N passes through the points 3, 7, and 6, 3. Are lines K and N parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So the first thing I want to do is find the slope for K. 5 minus 2 over 3 minus a negative 1, which becomes plus 1. And I get 3/4. And then I want to find the slope of N. 3 minus 7 over 6 minus 3, negative 4/3. Are these parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Perpendicular, which is the upside down T if you don't want to spell it out, or you could spell it out. You could always, with extra time, kind of plot those two lines. They don't have to be 100% accurate, but you could actually see, do they look like they would be perpendicular? They should, okay? Number 3 says a highway has a grade of 7%. For each 200 feet it goes horizontally. How many feet does it rise? So 7% is what in terms of a fraction? Good. So for every 100 feet, it raises 7 feet, right? So for each 200 feet, how many would it rise?
14.
Good. Okay. You could set up as a proportion. So 14 feet. You could say 7 over 100 equals x over 200, and then figure out, you'd have to double it, right? Or you could cross multiply, divide, either way. All right, all right, this is called...
So my friend went to St. Thomas and they learned...
Okay, so 3, 5 is write and graph equations of lines. So we're going to get information about lines, and then from there find equations, and then from there graph and or vice versa, okay? But again, this is a review of Algebra 1 stuff overlapping with the slope. So the slope-intercept form of a line is probably the most common equation that you use for lines, which is y equals mx plus b. The m is for slope. The b is the y-intercept, or the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. So you'll see stuff like this, where it says find the slope and the y-intercept, and then graph the equations. So if you want, I'm going to pull in a graph, but I would probably recommend you do the same.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a graph on yours?
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with me? So the first thing you want to do is get it into slope-intercept format. So I'm going to take A, I'm going to solve it for y. I'm going to get negative y, or negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. And then divide everything by negative 3. Careful with your signs. And I get y equals 2/3 x minus 2. So then the y-intercept, which is negative 2, is the coordinate point on the y-axis. So I go to negative 2 or 0, negative 2, and I plot a point. And then the slope is 2/3. Remember, this is rise over run, right? So I'm going up 2 and to the right 3. Or I could actually treat that as negative 2 over negative 3, which is down 2, and to the left 3. It doesn't matter which direction you go in. And then you just want to connect your points to make the line.
Just take a screenshot of the graph.
Yeah. Okay, so now B is already in slope-intercept form. I go to positive 1 because that's my y-intercept. And then negative 1/4 means I can either do negative 1 over positive 4 or positive 1 over negative 4. It doesn't matter which one you keep it with, as long as you don't make both of them. So let's say I go down 1 and to the right 4. I'd be on the same line if I went up 1 and to the left 4. I went down 1 and to the right 4, or up 1 and to the left 4. Okay, and then the last one is y equals negative 3. So this is where you have to have your memorization into play. Which kind of line has a y equals? Vertical or horizontal? Horizontal. So if you think about it, This is saying that the y is always -3. It never changes. So no matter what my x value is, the y is always -3, which means it's a horizontal line and the slope is 0. Good. If it's x equals, then it's vertical because your x is never changing. So the x is always the same. Yep. It looks like the opposite axis. So if it's a y equals, it follows the shape of the x-axis. And if it's an x equals, it follows the shape of the y-axis.
So if it was like...
Go ahead, Michaela. Go ahead.
For the blue one, is it on 3 or is it kind of like in the middle between?
The blue started at 2.
No, not the.
And then it should be on 4. It just, when I moved it, it got ungrouped. It should be down 1 and to the right 4. So it should be at 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's a y equals a number, it's what kind of line?
Horizontal.
Horizontal, and it has what kind of slope?
0.
And if it's an x equals a number?
Vertical.
Vertical line, slope undefined. Yep, good. I can read your mind. Okay, I just did that together. Okay, now it says write an equation of the line and slope intercept form. So now you're doing the opposite, okay? You need to figure out what your y-intercept is, and you need to figure out what your slope is. So where's the y-intercept? 4. So b is 4. And then my slope, does it matter which one you count from and to? No, it doesn't. Because I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 6, which is -6, and write 1, 2, 3, which is a +3. So it's -6/3, which is -2. Or I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, left 1, 2, 3. It's still 6/-3, which is still -2. So the order in which you do it doesn't matter.
Could it also be because could also be that too.
But you did it the other way around. You're going run, rise.
Oh.
You got to do rise, run. Yep. Or you could use those 2 points and plug it into y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to do it. Either way, you get the same answer. So now my b is 4, my m is -2, which means it's y equals mx plus b, or y equals -2. Good. Yep.
If the, like, just like example, like if the 6 was negative and 3 was negative, it would be fine.
Correct. Yep. If they're both negative, it would go back positive. Any other questions?
Wait, can I leave it like?
Okay, it says write an equation of a line that passes through point -1, 1 that is parallel to the line with the equation y equals 2x minus 3. So why is it giving you that it's parallel to that second line?
Because the slopes are the same.
Slope should be the same. So the slope of this line is what? 2. And that is the only piece of information I need from that line. Now I'm done with it. Don't use that -3, which is a common mistake people make. All I need from that is its slope. Now I've got a point and I've got slope. I'm actually going to show you 2 ways to do this. One is with y equals mx plus b, where this is going to be x and this is going to be y. So y is 1, m is 2, x is -1 plus b. 1 equals -2 plus b. Solve for b, which is 3. Then I need the b and the m, and I plug it back in.
I did this last year.
Yeah, hopefully everybody did.
Which one? Oh.
So that's the first way. The first way is using slope-intercept form, which is what that y equals mx plus b, okay? Another form of an equation is called point slope. And it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. For me, it's easier to do it that way. You just plug it in once, you simplify it. But you could use either method. If you think about the information that you're given, once you find the slope from that first line and the point, that is the information you literally have, the point and the slope. But when you plug in for point slope, you plug into x1, y1. So I get y minus 1 equals m, which is 2 again, x minus a -1. Then this becomes plus. I get y minus 1 equals 2 times, I'm going to distribute it to both, x plus 2, and then I add the 1, and I get y equals 2x plus 3. Same answer, 2 methods, It doesn't matter which one you use, as long as at the end it's in slope-intercept form. So you want it to be equal, like y equals something. Yep. Okay, now it says write the equation of the line J passing through the point 2, 3 that is perpendicular to the line K with the equation y equals negative 2x plus 2. So what's the difference between this one and the one we just did? Okay, this one is perpendicular, which means what? Opposite reciprocal. Good. So the slope of this line is?
Plus 2. Negative 2. Minus 2.
The original one's negative 2. Perpendicular would be? Positive 1/2. Again, you are done with that first line. Don't use it for anything else. So now my point is 2, 3, and my slope is 1/2. So if this is x1, y1, I'm going to plug it into point slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I get y minus 3 equals 1/2 x minus 2. And then a little part of you cries because there's a fraction, but I have faith in you that you can multiply by 1/2. So you're going to distribute the 1/3 or 1/2. What's 1/2 times negative 2? Negative 1. And then you're going to add the 3.
Can you do it the other way too?
Yep. So if I did it y equals mx plus b, I would get y, which is 3, equals m, 1/2, x is 2, plus b.
Oh, so if you gotta plug in the y for this one.
Yep. And then you got to plug it back in. So that's the only extra step is you got to plug them back in.
You distributed it. How did you get 1/2 x minus 1?
So 1/2 got multiplied by the x, and then 1/2 times negative 2, so negative 2 times 1/2.
Okay,
So since like the slope was -2, but it's perpendicular, I'm not gonna use negative, so I'm gonna use
Opposite reciprocal.
But I use that number,
Yep.
not the negative.
Correct. Correct. If it's parallel, you keep it. If it's perpendicular, you opposite reciprocal. Yep. All right, third equation of a line. So first was first was slope intercept, which is y equals mx plus b, right? Then came point slope. Now it's standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Neither of that, well, not neither, sorry. They're not both 0, so you need one letter to be there. They have to all be whole numbers, so you can't have any fractions or decimals. And a must be positive, which means the x term has to be positive. The y term can be negative, the c can be negative, but the x term has to be positive. Now, usually you don't plug into a, b, c. There's no such thing as those. But what will happen is that you'll see instructions that will say, find the equation of a line and put it into standard form. So your end result needs to be in this form. The other one is, so if it doesn't say standard form, it's slope intercept. All right, so it says graph the line with the equation in standard form. So I've got my graph and my line is in standard form. Now you actually have two options here. One is leave it in standard form. The other is solve it for y like we were doing before. So if I do that, I get 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. Divide everything by 4. So what's my y-intercept? 3. My slope? Negative 3/4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went down 3, right 4, but you could have also gone up 3, left 4, got the same line. Easy stuff, right? Okay, number 1 says write the equation of the line in the graph at the right, and 2, write the equation of a line that passes through 2 points. So with the first one, well, with both of them, what 2 pieces of information do I need in order to find the equation of the line? I need the slope and A y-intercept or a point, right? Because I could use either one. So what do you get from example 1? Y-intercept would be what? -1. And slope? Up to?
2/3.
Good. Over 3. So if it didn't say specifically standard form, then I can get y equals 2/3 x minus 1. Now let's say it said it needed it in standard form. What are the rules for standard form?
A has to be positive.
A has to be positive, which means the x term has to be positive, right? And no fractions. How do I get rid of a fraction? Multiply by the denominator. So I can multiply everything in this thing by 3. And I get 3y equals 2x minus 3. Don't forget to multiply the 3 times that -1. Now I need the x to stay positive, which means what's moving? The 3 is going to the other side, and the 3y is coming to the side with the x, right? So I can add the 3 and then subtract the 3y. Okay, the 3 can be on the left or the right, doesn't matter. But the x has to be positive and you can't have any fractions. Yep.
So like name what's A, B, and C for that.
You don't need to. No. Questions on that one? Yep.
How come the y has to be moved to the other side?
Because it has to, the standard form has x and y on the same side. No fractions, no decimals, x has to be positive.
Does it matter if you write like 2x minus 3y equals 3?
Nope. Like this?
Yeah.
Same. Yep, both work. Questions on that one? So again, pay attention because it would stink to get a question wrong because it's in the wrong form because you didn't read the instructions. Okay? So unless it says otherwise, it's slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, unless it says otherwise. If it says standard, then you're going to get in standard form. All right, second one says write the equation of a line that passes through -2, 5, and 1, 2. I don't have either the y-intercept or the slope, right? What do I do? Find the slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2, and I get 2 minus 5 over 1 minus a -2. -3 over 3, which is? -1. There's my slope. Now, this is where point slope comes in handy. Because I can either plug that in with either x and y, or I can plug it in with point slope. You can do either one. So if I did y equals mx plus b, I would pick either point and put it in as the x and the y and the m here. Or I can do y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus 5 equals m, which is -1, x minus a -2 becomes plus 2. If it was standard, I'd move the x to the other side.
You can put either one whichever one you want.
Yep. You could do slope. You could do the y. So I could do 5 equals m times x. You just got to remember to plug back in.
And whichever x you plug in has to be the same.
You have to pick from the same point. So you can actually pick either of those points, but you got to plug in that point, like the x and y that matches. Yeah, I could have plugged in either point. I would have gotten the same answer. Questions? Everybody still good?
What's standard like used for? Like
Honestly, just to put it into that form. So there's like, you could get a shortcut of a slope out of standard, like -a over b is a shortcut of a slope, but really it's just a format in which they sometimes ask for your answer to be in. You can find intercepts really quick from standard because you just plug in 0 means you eliminate one term and solve it, eliminate the other term, solve it, so it's easy to find intercepts from there. But really it's just a different format. All right, let's see how many we can get through. So A is x-intercept of 8, y-intercept of 2. It's kind of tricky in the way it gives the information, but what's true about intercepts? Yep, so they're on a line. You said both things, right? They would be on those axes, which means one of the coordinates is 0, right? For an x-intercept, the y is 0. So you can have a number and 0. And then for the y-intercept, the x is 0. Take these 2 points. 1 point. No, the 2 point from before. So this one.
No, I said the slope.
Oh, this is 0, 8. No, 8, 0. And this is 0, 2, right? And from there, you can find the slope. That's what you're saying. So I can do 2 minus 0, which is 2, over 0 minus 8, which is negative 8. And I get negative 1/4. Now I've got my slope and my y-intercept. So I could say y equals negative 1/4 x plus 2. The other thing you can do is once you get the slope, take the slope, which is still negative 1/4, and then either one of these points and plug it into point slope. Okay, so B says find the line through 6, 4 parallel to line equals y equals negative 2x plus 4, and C perpendicular. So you do those because those are just like the ones we just did. Go ahead and work through those. See how far you can get on your own. All right, so B says a line through 6, 4 that is parallel to y equals negative 2x plus 4. So what do I need that negative 2x plus 4 for? Lewis. Right, so I needed slope, right? So if the slope of that line is negative 2, what's the slope of a line parallel to it? Negative 2. So I'm using that slope, and I'm using this point. Again, you could plug it into y equals mx plus b, or you can plug it into the point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and I get y minus 4 equals negative 2x plus 12. Add the 4. Y equals negative 2x plus 16.
I was just solving this.
It's just one less step from plugging it back in, but it's just. Let me get through them. If I have time, I'll go back to it. But you should have gotten the same answer. All right, C says the line through 6, 4 perpendicular to that same line. So if that slope is negative 2, what's the slope of the line that's perpendicular to it? Positive 1/2. So I get y minus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 6. Distribute that 1/2. Add the 4. D, through points 3, negative 2, and 4, 1. So what do I have to do first? Find the slope. So 1 minus a negative 2 becomes plus 2. 4 minus 3. And I get 3 over 1, which is 3. That's the slope. Does it matter which point I pick?
No.
Nope. So I'm just going to grab the first one. If you hate negatives, pick the other one. It doesn't matter. So y minus a negative 2 becomes plus 2. Equals 3x minus 3. Y plus 2 equals 3x minus 9. Y equals 3x minus 11. Yep. Point slope. Yeah. All right, then E. This one's the easiest, yes?
Yeah.
Sometimes don't give up before we get to the end because sometimes the end's easiest. Negative 3/4 x minus 2. And F. I can plug it in point slope. So y minus a negative 2 becomes plus 2 equals 2x minus 5y plus 2. And subtract the 2. Connor, you want me to do D again? Was that the one? Or B? B. So this is y equals mx plus b, where b the x was 6, this is 4, and the m is negative 2. So 4 equals negative 2 times 6 plus b. And b is 12. Wait. Where? No, yep. 6 times 2 is not 8. Oops. And then still same slope, right? Negative 2. Same answer. So be prepared to get this information in all different formats, right? Sometimes it's from a graph, sometimes it's from points, sometimes it's like almost in like a paragraph form. And then the reverse. So you can also get the equation, have to take information out of it. You got to get to know these equations pretty well so that you can move them around.
Whenever we're solving for equation, the only thing that's not going to be like left in the variable would be the
X and the Y.
would be the
X and Y. The only thing that's not left in variable, you mean?
well, I'm thinking like is it B that's yes.
So when you plug it back in the second time, you have to plug in the B and the M. So you're solving, if you're doing y equals mx plus b, you're solving for b the first time, but then you got to take the b and the m and plug those both back in. If you're doing slope-intercept. Yeah. All right, the homework answers, my notability is crashing, so I can't open the actual book, but these are the homework answers that were the evens. Homework evens. No. This is the two. This is the three. Aren't that the odds? The odds I give you the answers to.
Austin, I can't do that.
No, sure, because that's going well for you and it's preparing for the test. No, you're supposed to do all of them. Just check your answers for the odds.
I like this. This is very intuitive.
Oh, yeah.